Hey guys, CalebBeg01, thank you for joining me again for another random horror review, while also continuing my Rue Morgue 200 alternative horror movie challenge. If you missed my last video, I sort of described what that is. It's basically Rue Morgue put out this list of 200 movies, and this challenge has been set by Moodz and I guess JP as well. I'll put their channels in the description below, so you can watch their stuff as well. What it basically is, as I said, 200 movies. A movie gets pulled out, we review it, and yeah, so it's no different to a normal random horror review, guys. That's why I've kept the same name for this series. Don't worry about it, it's just going to be a review of movies, except I'm following along with their films, and from now on I'll say what movie is coming up, so you guys can join in too, check out the movie, and then by the time my review comes out, feel free to put your thoughts in the comments, and follow along, guys, because it's really fun. I'm having fun, even though I'm playing catch up. They're at their third review, this is my second, so their review of this movie is already out. But anyway, the movie is Psycho 2. Sorry, that was a longer intro, but Psycho 2. Yeah, what a cool movie. This wasn't a first time watch for me. I've seen this movie a few times. If I'm being completely honest, this is probably my go-to Psycho movie. If you don't know, somehow there's 4 Psycho movies. Yeah, this is probably my go-to. I'm not sure if I'm game enough to say it's the best Psycho movie, but it's the one that, I feel the most comfortable returning to. I guess we'll quickly get into the plot of this movie now. So, this movie, in real time, it's from 1983, and just like the gap between the first movie, it takes place 22 years after the events of the first Psycho movie, which that in itself is so fucking cool and so brave, because, you got to look at it like this. First of all, it's rising to the challenge of following up one of the greatest horror movies of all time, Psycho, directed by I almost said Anthony Perkins, Alfred Hitchcock. That in itself is a challenge, but doing it 22 years later and pulling it off, what the fuck, well done. You gotta just praise it for that. But anyway, takes place 22 years after the events of the original. Norman Bates has been in, I guess, a mental institution, and he is being released. They're saying he's fit to go back into society now. There's obviously people against it, that plays into the plot. But he's returned to the house, to his hotel, and I guess from there you got people fucking with him, you got a bit of confusion with how mentally he's dealing with it, and, people start to get killed, a mystery unravels, and I'll sort of leave it there. As I do with my movies that I review for the challenge, I'm going to go into a little bit of spoilers, but still not too much, but yeah, we'll get into my thoughts of the movie now. Once again, I just want to quickly, I know I already said it, but praise this movie again for pulling off what is something that had all odds against it. 22 years later, a follow-up to one of the best movies of all time, being Psycho, or one of the most, acclaimed movies of all time, at least, and doing a really good job of it. I feel like in the horror community, this movie is starting to get a lot of praise, but just in general, I feel like maybe the average moviegoer hasn't really seen this one, and I definitely recommend it. It is so cool. The first half of this movie, I love. You got Norman Bates, as I said, coming back into society. I got a bit tongue-tied there. Society. And he's almost got this childlike feel about him, as in, it's because he's been in isolation, away from the outside world for so long, he's just trying to find his feet again. They start him off in this, restaurant, and he's just so, unsure of things, but he's given it a go. I just love that. I find the first half of this movie so calming, and once again, the second half is still really good, but that's when, the mystery starts to unravel. You start to get people getting killed and taken out, and it's 2 different feels, but throughout the whole movie, it's really, really solid. One thing I noticed this time with this movie, it's sort of a little bit off topic, and I probably wouldn't have realised this if I hadn't have watched this other movie not too long ago, but I feel like plot-wise, this movie has a lot in common with Straitjacket from the year 1964, I believe, starring Joan Crawford. I feel like these movies have a lot in common, you know, person that committed these murders returning home after X amount of years, some people fucking with them. Yeah, I don't want to get too much into spoilers, but I feel like those movies have a lot in common. I'm not going to say this movie ripped off Straitjacket. I don't think it's quite in that territory, but I think it just stands out a lot to me that those movies are pretty similar, only because, as I said, I watched Straitjacket not too long ago. I thought that was interesting, and that's something I kind of wanted to point out, like my little fun fact that I sort of found when I was rewatching this movie. I thought that was pretty cool. The acting all round in this movie is great, but, you know, obviously I got to give the crown to the king, Anthony Perkins, who plays Norman Bates, now for this, at the time of this release, second time. He just knows how to play Norman so well. Norman is one of the best characters, I think, in cinema. You know, I could say horror cinema, but I just think in cinema in general. There is so much to Norman, and it all comes down to Anthony Perkins' portrayal as him. He just smashes it out of the park. But, you know, you also got Meg Tilly in there. That is Jennifer Tilly's younger sister. She does a really good job as well. I actually really like her character. She plays Mary. And with that being said, if you know the twist to this movie, rewatching it this time, I never really looked at it, but I liked looking at Mary in the way, because if you know the twist to this movie, she knows a lot more than what you think she does at the start. And I found that so interesting, watching it almost from her perspective and what she must be thinking through, I guess, the first half of the movie. I found that like really interesting, going back and revisiting this movie. One thing that now we'll sort of get into things that, you know, aren't my favourite in this movie. And this isn't really actually like a problem. I always just thought it was weird, like, if all these things happened to Norman in this house, like as in the first events, in the first movie Psycho, all those events, why would they, like, not be against him returning to the house? Like, the guy says, oh, you know, you might have these triggers, blah, blah, blah. And he literally does. In, like, the first 5 minutes of him being in this house, it starts to play mind games on him. And it's like, you know, if I was running this facility, I'd probably be like, yeah, maybe when he's released, let's give him some time away from the place that was, you know, all these things happened to him. Like, I thought that was a bit weird. This movie goes for, I think, like an hour 50. And there are people that say this movie flies by. I feel like coming into the third act, I think the third act's awesome, but coming into the third act, I feel like it starts to, like, maybe just drag on a little bit and slow down. That's just me. I feel like I am honestly being a little bit nitpicky with this movie, because there's not really that much wrong with it. But obviously I'm going to point out just my opinions on this film. I've decided I sort of might leave it there, because I don't want to get... my last video for this challenge went a little bit too long, so I think I'll just leave it there. I think I've made all the points I want. This movie is really, really good, and as I said, I feel like horror fans now are starting to really pay attention to this one, but the average moviegoer, definitely check this one out, because you might, like I did before seeing this movie, it's like a follow-up to Psycho. It's real iffy, but this movie really does smash it out of the park, and as I said, it's one of my favourite Psycho movies. I wouldn't say it's the best Psycho movie, but it's probably my go-to. As we always do, I'll finish with a rating out of 10. I am going to give Psycho 2 an 8.5. Really close to a 9. I'm just going to go off this time round. Yeah, like, there's definitely times where, like, I can just watch this movie all day, but I felt like this time around it just sort of dragged on a little bit. I don't know. Might chuck it on again 2 days, 2 years time, whenever, and I might like it more, might like it less, but 8.5 for now. Psycho 2. And thank you guys again for joining me. As I said, I will let you know what movie we are watching next. I believe it is Vampyres from... Let me check. I'm going to use some YouTube editing. This movie, Vampyres, from the year 1974. This will be a first time watch for me, and that's actually going to be interesting, because normally I only mostly review movies that I've seen more than once, just because, you know, I find like I give my best thoughts after I've seen a movie a couple of times. But this is going to be a first time watch, so if you guys want to follow along with this challenge, the next movie is Vampyres from 1974. So if you can get your hands on a copy or maybe stream it or whatever, definitely check it out and follow along, guys. But as I said, thank you guys for joining me again, and I'll see you guys very, very soon. And yeah, everyone stay safe. Thank you.